Hey folks, it's Daniel Rashid. Thanks for tuning in again. Today I'm going to talk about my first investment property. How exciting! Love the bag that this comes in. This is Yerba Mate. It's my drinking straw. Love drinking this. So, just a tea brand from usually Argentina. This stuff is called, pretty sure I want to pronounce that right, it's Gallo Mini. It's just an unsmoked Yerba Mate blend. Basically some hot water. And this is my drink of choice. If anyone knows me, it's what keeps me going. That and coffee. So about 15 years ago, I purchased my first investment property, and it was a triplex in the city center. It was awesome. I was pretty excited at the time. Not really. I was so scared. You know, that was my first buy, and I had to pull all my resources to buy this particular property. It was like scrounging and saving so much money that I just, you know, it was just out of my reach. I really didn't have much. You know, anyone who knew me, I was working like 3 jobs, and I was just really trying to pull together something to purchase my own property. I was motivated. I was ignited by a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's like, it was amazing. You know, it's a great little read, but it's like, it ignites that passion in you. But don't use it to calculate your rent. It doesn't really teach you about calculating your rentals. You really should educate yourself on that process, whether or not be biggerpockets.com has a ton of content on that, almost too much content. Just, you may have to just dive into the basics. You just really want to know, you know, how to evaluate a property, you know, the simple mechanics, cap rate and cash on cash return, and of course your location in your local market. You got to do your research and eye it up. Now I did all that. I did my research. I looked at about 20 properties, I think, at the time. Went to a bunch of open houses, and finally decided to jump in on a particular triplex that made sense to me. There was a lot of woes with this property. It was older, but the cash on cash was good. But you know, there's a lot of repairs in the foreseeable future that I still actually have that property today that I'm still paying for, you know, capital expenditures on, but it's netted me so much, and it's done so much for me, for my rental profile, and still to this day, you know, in terms of return. And that's the kind of thing that that happens once you stick to the investing world in terms of real estate and holding on to your assets. It means so much. Now, when I bought it, I had to pull all my resources to buy that thing. It was really scary for me, but I ended up committing to it and doing it. And coming back, every time I was so scared, I came back to my numbers. Hey, this is going to work out. Hey, you know, to be confident in this investment, and it's going to work because I've done my research on it. And you always have to come back sometimes, because your heart will race. Emotionally, you will race. It's the biggest thing that you're ever going to buy. It's crazy, you know, all the emotions that you feel. But feel confident and take action. Just stop thinking about it. Just take action. That's like the most important thing to do, anything, you know, business-wise. Take action, because too many people are just kind of floating in space. You hear it all the time, but don't be that person. Whether it be real estate or not, just take action, because that will get you somewhere. You know, at least you've done something. You know, do your research, but be confident in yourself. When I bought, I didn't really communicate to the people around me, even my family. You know, I purchased based on my knowledge. Now, if the people in my family were investing in real estate and doing numbers, then we'd have something to talk about. If I knew somebody at the time that was doing the same, we'd have something to talk about. But about 15 years ago, really, no one was really doing it quite like, not quite like today. Today, there's a ton of resource on real estate investing, for one, and for two, a lot of people are doing it. You know, off the count, you know, you likely know someone that's doing it. I'm doing it. You're watching me. So it's like there's a lot of people doing it. And there's just so much resource that you have access to as a new investor these days. So take advantage of those resources. Talk to the people around you that are successful. And sort of leave out the naysayers, you know, the people that are maybe too scared to take action. You don't need that. in your life. You know, you want to take action, surround yourself with people that are going to help you take that action. If they're not, like myself, way back when, I didn't talk to nobody. I bought the building, I had it for about 2 months, then I started telling, you know, the people around me, my family, my friends, hey, I bought that building. And then people called me wild and crazy at the time. And why did you do that? The place is so old. Did you do your numbers? You know, then, you know, all those negative thoughts start entering my mind. And I'm like, hey, I'm committed. Can't do anything now. I got to live it through. And those first 2 years were a struggle for me, owning that first property. It was a tough time. Really had to save my assets, not spend foolishly or lavishly. I took my time focusing on the investment. How can I improve it? How can I improve the heat cost? All my units included heat. How can I improve the electrical? All my included electrical as well. So there's a couple of pitfalls that I needed to reprimand, and I put solar panels on the roof. I did a bunch of things to the property to help improve my cash flow, and it's netted wonderful results. I still have that property to this day, and I would never go back on it. So, you know, I took that action. I got the first one. It rolled into the second one, the third one, the fourth one. So it starts rolling that way where you're taking action. And I think that all stems for that thought. And if you want to ignite that thought, again, you could use a book like Robert Kiyosaki's, or there's a ton of books out there that are fantastic. But definitely hammer down on what your numbers look like, and you know how to calculate those numbers. I could do it right now. Deal crunch. All right, so the rental was 16. I'll just say whatever, you know, 130 queen, because I don't want to talk about my assets on this thing. You'll know too much about me if I talk about what I own. You'll find me one way or another. If anyone wanted to find somebody these days, you can. Charlottetown. I'll put this on. Okay. Property type, single family. It doesn't matter. I don't know. There's a bunch of rentals. There's a triplex. So bathrooms is 3 bathrooms. It really doesn't matter anything here. Probably about 3 square feet, 2,500 square feet. It built in the 1800s or something. It's old as hell. I don't even, excuse my language. It's old though. Lot size probably be 0.2. I should talk about that because I had a little dispute there about my lot size. And someone was encroaching on my land, and I had to deal with it. This is just recently. So we had to do a survey because they just built their driveway on my land, and it didn't line up. I just looked at my fence lines, and they just built their driveway into my property, and I had to put a stop to it. So that was a bit painful because they, always parked there, and they just ended up ripping up my land and putting a driveway in. So really great people, but at the same time, it's like, hey, what are you doing? They can't just do that. So I had to build a fence across and deal with it. But sometimes you have to get involved in different ways, and it's really frustrating what people sometimes do and take advantage of if you're not looking, So just be careful. That purchase price at that time, goodness, I think it was like $155 for a triplex. Crazy these days, because that building right now would be $600,000 likely. That's insane, over that many years. There's no way any job I'm working in I'm making that much unless I'm like down in LA being a superstar. But I'm not. I'm on a little island. I'm not making that kind of money. So it's just insane that, from a couple hours a month, that I have such equity build in that property. It's just incredible. After repair value, I'm going to keep that 0. And I was financing it at that time, not interest only. My down payment was about 10%, so it was like $15,000. Oh, percentage, I'll just say 10. Interest rate at that time was like 3.6. It was pretty high. Long term, 25 years or something. Mortgage insurance was like 3% with CMAC. Funding cost, it didn't really cost me much to fund. What is this? Estimated repair cost? Nah, it's good. It was making money. Gross monthly rent, was roughly $700 a unit. I'll put $2,300 and $2,200 roughly. And other monthly income, there was not. income growth per year at that time was like probably about 2%. Expenses grew, and it was kind of like blowing out expenses a little bit. Property appreciation probably tied with that. Blowing out expenses in terms of heat and tenants opening the window. It was kind of blowing out a lot of expense. I had to like reform that property a bit. It took me a bit of work to do so. But you know, you have folks you provide the heat for, and they're used to opening the windows and no one's saying anything. It takes some time to like re-educate them. And if you can't re-educate them, you have to kind of take a more assertive action. Luckily, the last tenant in that place just left. So they've been living there for 12 years. So most of the tenants stayed in that building until they just, at the end of their, and they just wanted to go and I let them go kind of thing. So many years though, a lot of my tenants stayed there. So you provide a good rental with great terms, people they stick around. So sale expense, I'm not selling it. So let's move on. So based off of that, monthly expenses was $700. Wait, go back. Where's my monthly? Oh, here, let's itemize this. Okay, vacancy rate, 2%, maintenance rate. Older property cost me about 5% probably. Capital expenditures, not too bad at the start. Property management, I managed it myself, so 0. Great. Property tax each year, it was about $3,200 at the time. Insurance on that building at the time was pretty cheap, probably $1,000, I would say. Electricity a month, I said it was included. Was it included? Oh, actually there's all separate meters, and at that time they paid their own, so it was about per month or $45 because the house meter lights the parking lot. Per month water and sewer, $50. It wasn't that much at that time. Now everything's metered differently. Per month garbage, that's included in our taxes locally. That's included. Okay, there. Let's see what we're talking. All right, so pretty decent. Pretty decent. My cap rate's 12%. It was awesome. It's an older building. My cash on cash is 37%. These numbers, you don't find them these days. So it was pretty good at the time. I dived in at a good time. Can you make that happen these days? You can. Again, that's an old property. I put about $25,000 in it last year. So the boiler went, roofing had to all be done, and the construction costs these days are pretty ridiculous. So those are only 2 things. I had to do a lot with the units, so we had to turn around a few. But with those improvements and those move-outs come improved rents. So there's plenty of approaches on that. Plenty of strategies involved that you can kind of take advantage of and improve your property rent and cash on cash. These kind of properties these days are hard to find. You can probably find it for half the cap rate, like a 6%, 6.8, and then you can make things happen. So that's just a little. And if I didn't take action, if I didn't take action with that, I wouldn't have that property today and that equity build. And that's what I wanted to talk about mainly. Being assertive and taking action, being confident in yourself, and diving in. Make it happen. Yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Catch me on the next video. Take care.